awesome attendees, and welcome to our first ever She Changes the Game recruitment event. We are so excited to have put together an awesome panel of both present and alumni Up2Us Sports Coaches to speak about their experiences as being Up2Us Sports Coaches today, as well as share a little bit more about our Up2Us Sports Coach program with y'all. So just as a little bit of a personal introduction, hi, my name's Alannah Scardino. I am the project manager for She Changes the Game here at Up2Us Sports. And I'm just going to open us up today with a little bit of a slide deck presentation. So I'm just going to kick us off to share a little bit more. Bear with me while I share this. 1 second. All right, here we are. Awesome, we're all loaded. So Up2Us Sports and She Changes the Game. We're an initiative all about becoming the role model that girls need to reach their full potential. So just as a little bit of background about Up2Us Sports, we are a national nonprofit organization that identifies, trains, and supports coaches who bring sports-based youth development to underserved communities. If you don't know that term, sports-based youth development, it's really using sports as a platform or a tool to deliver all types of different skill building in kind of that social and emotional learning space, mental wellness, as well as that physical education space. So it's really kind of being able to use sport as a format to help youth reach their full potential, both in and out of sports. In the last 12 years that Up2Us Sports has been working, we've had over 1,800 member organizations. We're getting close to 3,500 coaches placed across the United States, and we've served over 644,800 youth all across the United States. And we're excited to keep the momentum going into these, the distant future. So the problem that we're addressing today that's come up in recent years is that girls drop out of sports at twice the rate of boys by age 14. And there's a few key reasons for this, but one of the biggest reasons is they have a lack of quality role models. So in the case of sports, a lot of times that's a coach that they can relate to that looks like them, that understands their experiences. And then when a girl doesn't play sports and she's dropping out of sports, she doesn't get to continue to reap all of the benefits that sports provide. Those are things like academic achievement, social, emotional well-being, and their physical health. So what we've done at Up2Us Sports is create our She Changes the Game initiative. And this is an initiative that we designed to place more women coaches at youth sports programs. Our biggest overarching goal is to reach a coach force of 50% women to help keep girls playing sports and help keep girls engaged in sports. I'm going to play this short video that I think is a super great representation of She Changes the Game. And it made me cry the first time I watched it. So I think it's super great. So I will play this.
I remember that feeling as a kid, like I was broken and I couldn't be fixed. I struggled to fit in and mostly failed. My parents didn't see what I was going through. They had their own problems.
Okay, I've been out in the streets. Calm down. Calm down, all right? I'll do it for her.
After they divorced, my dad moved to Texas. My mom had to get a second job at the hospital, working nights. And I kind of took care of myself. I hated school.
You ugly little baby! You little ugly girl! No one's Stop! No one likes you!
I hated myself so much, I didn't save any effort for anything else. They told me I might have to repeat 4th grade. It was right around that time I met Coach Tiffany. She asked me to join the basketball team. She was different. She listened. She didn't judge me. I decided to really give basketball a try. And I started really trying in other ways too. Started doing my math homework. When I wanted to give up, she wouldn't let me. She was always there. The world through her eyes was kinder, more manageable.
We are amazing. We are amazing.
I didn't feel like I had to hide all the time. I still remember what she told me, because she told me every day. You have greatness in you.
1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna stop it there. Right here, if I can figure out how to end this. All right. So that's just a really great video that we have that showcases one of our coaches of the year, Coach Tiffany, and I think is a really great example of how the power of a coach and what a coach can do beyond just teaching different sports skills. Women coaches in particular, when it comes to coaching any youth, they're a role model that girls can relate to by helping make sports first a more comfortable environment for girls, showing girls what is possible for them, being that real example of what they can accomplish when it comes to athletics, but also just beyond the court or field, and then teaching all youth what women are capable of. And this applies regardless of youth's gender, because it's important for all youth, regardless of their girls, boys, non-binary, to be able to see all of the amazingness that women can do. So these are kind of our main key impacts of women coaches in particular. Here we go. There we go. This is kind of the format we see. If there are more women coaches, then more girls will grow up with role models that look like them. And if more girls grow up with role models that look like them, then more girls will be empowered to reach their full potential. When girls have that empowerment, then they will break barriers both in and out of sports. So we're really trying to channel that energy and empowerment of girls in their sports so that they can reap all those benefits and be the change makers of tomorrow. Our coaches are super diverse as far as backgrounds and roles that they share. We have college students, recent graduates of both high school and college and grad school, retirees. We have athletes, educators, community members, family members, and all of our Up2Us Sports coaches are AmeriCorps service members. So we really do formally and informally look at our coaches as they're not just coaching sports, they're serving their community, they're serving youth. And all in all of our coaches are people who want to make a difference, people who want to make a positive impact on the youth that they serve. And I'm so excited to introduce to you some of the amazing coaches that we have here today. So I'm going to shift over to our panel discussion. I'm going to unpin myself so I can make sure that everybody is seen as equally as possible. If I can do that. Jacqueline, you might be able to help me with that. Here we go. We figured it out. Awesome. This is our first time using AirMeet as well, so bear with us if we need some time with the technical stuff. But I just want to get some introductions out of the way. So we have some amazing, amazing coaches with us. First up, we have Coach Onyeka Arah. Onyeka is a current Up2Us Sports Coach serving at PeacePlayers Baltimore. Prior to coaching, Onyeka played competitive basketball through high school and was a member of the Maryland 4A state finalist Paint Branch varsity girls basketball team of 2015. That same year, she participated in the inaugural PeacePlayers United States Leadership Development Program, and she traveled to the Middle East for the first Global Friendship Games. After that, Onyeka remained involved with PeacePlayers by volunteering at various events, and prior to becoming an Up2Us Sports Coach, she served as a youth development basketball coach at PeacePlayers Baltimore, utilizing her unique experience as an alumna of the program to connect with the youth and motivating them to engage with the curriculum and be the change that they wish to see in their communities. Onyeka also works with Montgomery County Recreation and will be continuing her studies at the University of Maryland, College Park this fall. Next, I want to introduce Coach Perriyana Clay. Perriyana was born and raised and currently resides on the west side of Chicago. She obtained a degree in sports medicine with a minor in chemistry from Howard University. Perriyana grew up playing sports recreationally and on teams, and she's a recent alumni of our Up2Us Sports Coach program, serving at Girls in the Game. Girls in the Game is a girl-serving sports organization dedicated to addressing the holistic approach of the girl, teen, and woman through sports. Since finishing her Up2Us Sports service, she's continued to work as a coach in the teen program at Girls in the Game. And last but definitely not least, we have Coach Sheena Flowers. So Sheena has been coaching for 7 years. She currently coaches as an Up2Us Sports Coach with the LA Dodgers Foundation. And she started coaching her son's teams and wanted to be involved in their development, as well as wanted to use coaching as a way to connect with her sons. So we are so grateful to have all of you here today to be able to share a little bit more about your coaching experience. I want to kick it off first with you, Onyeka, because you stayed involved at PeacePlayers a long time, and I know you're an alumni of that program. And I'm wondering what it was about PeacePlayers that made you want to transition from that athlete role as a kid into that coaching role with Up2Us Sports.
Yes, absolutely. So my experience with PeacePlayers, it began, like you said, when I was in high school at 14 years old. I had the amazing opportunity to participate in this leadership development program. Mainly what drew me to it was basketball, because that's what I loved and I really enjoyed to do. But I took away so much beyond that. I got to travel outside of the country for the first time with PeacePlayers. Still to this day, that's my only time leaving the country. But that trip to Israel was super transformational for me, especially because we got to run basketball clinics. Our coaches stepped aside and they said, here, you have these Arab and Jewish kids, and you're going to teach them how to play basketball, and you want them to have fun and be safe and, teach a little bit of the peace education that PeacePlayers stands for as well. But that was probably the most impactful experience for me on that trip and throughout that program. It really resonated with me how sports can make such a change in communities where, there is conflict and people may not see people from the other side or the opposing side of that issue as people. Because what PeacePlayers stands for is really seeing people as people and just showing that, children who play together can learn to live together. So that was probably the impetus of me wanting to really, become a coach in that way, a youth development coach. And yeah, that probably planted the seed for me. But specifically, deciding to come back to PeacePlayers as a coach after a few years, I had injuries and couldn't continue my basketball career in the way that I would have hoped. So I said, okay, let me go see what's going on at PeacePlayers, how I can get involved, stay involved with the game. And thankfully, there was an opportunity available at PeacePlayers Baltimore, jumped on that chance, and I have not looked back since. I love it.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I love hearing about your experience going through. And we've got to go on a trip or something, Onyeka, to go travel to some more countries and see what sports you
Definitely.
like. We can bring
Let me
basketball
know.
all over.
Yep.
We got to figure that out. Perriyana, I want to shift to you because I know you've been with Girls in the Game for such a long time, and I remember you telling me you were part of the program as early as like being 7 years old. So what does it mean to you that you're able to coach for and give back to a program that you were part of for so long as a girl?
Can you
Hopefully,
all hear me? No.
yes.
Hold on.
Here we go. We can hear you
What?
now.
Hold on.
Coming in. We can hear you, Perriyana. You're
But
good. All good.
oh, okay. Because on my screen it still said mute. Honestly, I mean it does mean the world to me, as corny and cliche as that sound. I try to stay away from those. But yeah, I joined the point program when I was 7 and I'm 25 now. And the whole like catalyst for me joining the program, because I my big mama, that's why I call my grandmother. We don't call her grandmother, you call her big mama. So my big mama, she noticed like I wanted to get out and do things, but I was just being a couch potato. She's like, I'm gonna find something for you to do. And so she ended up speaking with her coworker, who's like, yeah, my granddaughter's here in a summer camp. And that kind of really started my whole like approach to sports and, helping people and kind of like fuse. So I just love the fact that I can come and be that standard, because working with children of all ages, of all backgrounds and creeds, and even teenagers, the one thing you got to realize that they need besides communication and active role models is consistency. So being able to consistently work and give back into my community, and just besides the fact of saying, anyone can go into schools and programs, hey, look at me, I made it out, you can too. But to keep going back and to keep saying like, hey, you are smart, you are kind, you are somebody. Like there's more to this world. You can have exposure. What do you like to do? What are your interests? How does this make you feel? Like what do you think about that? Because children are intuitive, and so as teenagers, we always get into that stereotype about children don't notice nothing, or teenagers are lazy. And it's like we never ask, well, if you think they're lazy, then why are they lazy? What's that? And then you get into this whole like multitude of different problems and environment, because we hate the fact, and we hate to address the fact that like teenagers and children are affected by everything, including their environment. Because we like to think, what are children being stressed about? What are you worried about? You don't have responsibilities, but we never ask, like, what is it? So being able to work with the youth, and to give them that platform to speak freely and to learn and to enhance and to, develop and cultivate the skills that they have, and to give them, more light to their torch. So it means a lot, just being there, being a representation. Because like I tell people, I don't serve donors, I serve the girls and teenagers that I work for. I could care less about people who donating the money. I'm here to do a job, and my job is to help them and to help them prosper.
Absolutely. I love that, Perriyana. I also love that phrase, like adding more light to their torch. And I really appreciate how much you really prioritize the youth. I think that's a big thing that's consistent about coaches is we're here for the kids. And that's one thing I love about our Up2Us Sports program. Sheena, I want to shift it over to you and ask you, throughout your coaching experience so far with Up2Us Sports, how would you describe your experience going through training and then also running practices and also managing just your awesome Sheena life outside of coaching at the same time?
Thanks, Alannah. So I'm going to back up a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of background about me. So I played sports in high school. I played softball and basketball. And I think those experiences of playing sports definitely, I always knew that I wanted my sons to play sports, because there are skills that you learn that are invaluable, that not only that you can display on the field or on the court or the gym, but can be transferred to real life. So immediately when my oldest son was able to play like t-ball, I didn't really know very much about baseball, but softball, baseball is somewhat interchangeable. And I was sitting here on the sidelines, encouraging him and being compassionate for the other kids and, kind of sort of being like a mom to everybody. And one of the park directors asked me, he was like, Miss Flowers, he was like, have you ever been interested in coaching? And I'm like, not really. I was like, besides being a mom to my two boys, I was like, I'm not trying to coach other kids or, stuff like that. He's like, no, I think you'd be great at it. And because I thought I didn't have the skill set, as a coach, I'm like, what do you do? How do you run practices? What do you say? And he was very, very patient with me. And he basically said, just bring your authentic self to practices and to games. And he was like, anytime you have questions about, how to run practices or what to do or what these drills are, he was like, you have a support system here with us. We're not just going to throw you to the wolves. Here are some things that you can kind of sort of put into place. Now, to transfer that over to Up2Us and things like that, Up2Us has done a great job of providing you with so many tool sets that you can actually use to help kids develop. So the social emotional learning aspect, youth development skills, just all these different skill sets that you can use, and also some of the trauma-based learning that have, the courses that the courses that we've taken have really helped me to better understand the player, the kids, and then also understand my reactions to them as well. Right. And I just really have to say that had it not been for, some of those player skill development trainings and those trauma sensitive trainings, I definitely wouldn't be the coach that I am right now.
Absolutely. Sheena, you said something about kind of your experience and how you were kind of empowered by saying, like, just bring your authentic self to practice. And I think that's something that I know, at least for me, and I know a lot of my peers sometimes like wonder, what does it really mean to bring my authentic self? And like, how do I really break down the walls that I've built up to be able to do that? And I'm wondering for you, what was your experience like being able to like break down any walls that were there to just let yourself be Coach Sheena, be Coach Flowers, and just show up as yourself to practice every single day?
So I will tell you, it was work. Because sometimes when you take off one hat and you put on another, you think you have to be a certain way or you have to walk in a certain path. And I think what we need to understand is, and for me as a mother, or just, women in general, we get stuck with the persona, not that it's a negative persona, that we are immediately nurturing, right? Or that we have compassion, we have patience, we have these things. It's not necessarily that because you're a woman, you have it. It's because we've been put in experiences and we've been put in experience in certain situations where we are able to build that skill. And so now we're able to, transfer it to our sons, our daughters, or whatever the case may be. But what I would say is, in regards to bringing your authentic self, is not being afraid to fail. Realizing that we are always going to make mistakes. When you make a mistake, pick yourself back up, dust it off. Let's move on to the next. And if you don't know, ask questions. And that's the important part for me. And that's what I try to instill in my sons. And then also, kids that I coach as well. If you don't know something, it's okay if you ask questions. And if you don't feel like asking questions in front of the group, then you can ask after, and I also would like to say that sometimes, saying that you don't know also shows kids that, hey, sometimes adults don't have all the answers. They don't know. And sometimes you'll see me on the field. I'm like, great question. Hold that thought. And I'll go ask another coach, or whatever, or I'll get back to you as soon as, our practice is over and I'll have an answer for you, For me, I'm very high energy. I love to nurture. I love to mother. And then I'm also very, very inquisitive. So for me, I'm always asking my kids questions. And so I want to make them feel like asking questions is okay. You know, nothing, there's no stupid questions or there's no dumb questions or, you know, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that they have a, how do they say it? That they have a chance to speak and to be heard. They have a platform to be, you know, to be heard and to speak.
Absolutely. There's something so empowering about the power that being your authentic self can have on other people and the youth that you serve. So thank you so much for sharing that, Coach. Perriyana, I want to shift it to you because you coach with Girls in the Game, which is a girl-serving organization. And I want to ask you why you think and how you've seen it in existence because you've been with them for so long. What is the impact that having women coaches has on the youth that you serve, and why do you think it's important to continue giving the girls that you serve women coaches as those role models?
Well, besides the cliche answer of them having someone to relate and seeing the self, I think it's also just it's living proof of, like, you know, your life have, you know, it's endless, no bounds. There's, you know, room and spaces for you to just occupy, you know, and it's just learning how to occupy those. And then once you get into there, how to fulfill that space to the maximum as you can. And the importance of it, I think, is also like I feel like it goes back to exposure, because when working in communities and in schools, you know, you get that as a coach, you get that exposure. So you have to figure out what is success, and success at one site may not be the same in another. So then you got to figure out, okay, this is the environment that I'm in. How can I fulfill and give these girls and teens adequate programming? So then that kind of translate, because then your students seeing you work hard, seeing you like get to know them, their interests, seeing you bring in outsiders to come in and to cultivate that. Like for instance, like a part of our program, we have what we call leader to leaders. And so since it's an all girls organization, we bring women in professional settings. So what those settings might be, you know, people like we bring in an all women architecture company. And never in my life have I seen an all women architecture and construction company. Blew my mind, and I'm learning. You know, bringing in people like women that work for like sport orgs like the Cubs, but then bringing in women who are in healthcare or in you know, careers they will never think about. Like, you know how much money it is you can make just designing golf courses. If I could draw, I wish I could sit in my house and play with crayons all day and make money, you know? So I think, and it's just also when you're a woman coaching males, I think it gives them like, hey, because I can speak from experience. I remember when I was a child, I used to tell my mom, if I get a male teacher, I'm not going to school. I used to tell her, like, I'm like 4 or 5, 6 years old, saying I'm going to drop out of school. And she's like, what? I said, what can a man teach me? And why do a man want to sit in the classroom with children all day? I said, that's nasty. And my mom was like, what? So I feel like if I'm thinking of this, thinking like that about men, what are our little boys thinking about women? How, like, you know, they're probably thinking, what can I learn from a woman? What can a woman teach me, especially about a sport I've been playing? And that's when you, as a coach, got to get your teams, your coaches, your kids to think beyond the immediate and see the game or whatever you're teaching, the curriculum, from a different perspective. And then once you get them to see in a position or see from a disposition other than theirs, then it's like, there's that light bulb. And then you know you're making success. Especially, I always say, if I just get one kid each time in programming, I'm doing my job. And if they come back, I'm really doing my job. So it's just I don't know how to summarize it. You know, I talk a lot. I'm a talker. So I think it's just being there and being present. Because you can be there and not be present. Like, I talk to my teens the way I would talk to my friends and give them that same courtesy. Like, you know, listen, but active listening. Am I listening to be able to just talk and answer their question, or am I listening and giving them my undivided attention to be that person they can you know, vent to? So, you know, it's different styles of listening. So it's just I don't know, just being there and just, you know, being something they could see.
Absolutely. Onyeka, I would love your perspective on this as well, because I know you work with a lot of boys in your coaching. So in your co-ed programs that you work with, or in your interactions with boys, I'm wondering your thoughts on why you think having women coaches is important for youth of all genders.
Yes, and I mean that was very well said, Perriyana. I don't know if I can put it much better myself, but yeah, a lot of our sites are very male dominated, as is the case with a lot of sports, which is why we need things like She Changes the Game. We've been seeing, thankfully, rising registration numbers from girls, and I think a lot of that has to do with kind of you know, our presence as women coaches. PeacePlayers has done an amazing job. We have uh, three women coaches, and our director is a woman. So the boys get to see that, you know, we are experts in the field. We're here. We're the coaches. It's not, you know, anything done specific. You know, oh, let's hire a woman here for, you know, just to be seen. We want a woman on our staff just because it's good to have a woman here, which it is great, but it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. We're here. We know the game of basketball. We have a lot to teach them. And initially, they might be apprehensive, like Perriyana was saying, with, you know, how she was apprehensive to the idea of having a male teacher, and then boys might be a little put off by the idea of having a woman coach. It might be counterintuitive in their minds, like what can a woman teach me? You know, she can't play as well as I can. I got the handles, I got the shot, whatever. You know, they watch NBA and may not watch women's sports and things like that. But after a while, they learn that we can play too. They learn that Coach O will cook them in whatever game. They definitely learn that, and they also become more respectful. Their perspective widens. You know, they get to see people as people. They get to see athletes as athletes, and they learn how to treat their girl peers as well. It's great to see how they grow, how their minds are expanding when they see a woman in a coaching role. And now a lot of them, you know, they don't even question it. They don't even think, okay, this is, you know, a woman and she's my coach. It's coach. That's what it is. They see us come in and they know what's up. So it's amazing to see.
I love that. I love that's one of my favorite pieces of impact about having women coaches is it kind of sets a new standard for like what is normal in the sports world. I feel like for a long time it was kind of just normalized that women aren't in those coaching roles. But now it's as we have more of that representation, and it becomes less of like a thought, like you're saying, Coach Onyeka is like, that's just coach. Like nothing else is relevant. That's just coach. I love that that's the kind of the response that your youth are having. Sheena, I want to ask you like a similar question, but kind of shifting the perspective a little bit. For women to step into these male dominated leadership roles like coaching, what are the benefits that women can reap from being in that leadership coaching position? How have you benefited? What skills have you developed? What are ways that you can grow as an individual by becoming a coach?
Thanks, Alannah. So I'm going to start off with what are the benefits that women as coaches kind of sort of bring to the game. We talked about nurturing. We also talked about communication. We have a different way of communicating, a different communication style. And I'm not going to say all women in general have one way of communicating. Whereas I may be a nurturer, you know, Onyeka may be very direct, you know, and Perriyana could be, you know, let's say witty. You know what I'm saying? She could bring, you know, something different to the game, right? I think also that we bring a level of compassion, right? And as a woman, or as women, you know, women coaches, you know, there are so many things that we thought of that we didn't necessarily get as we were growing up and being coached that we can definitely bring and change and bring about, you know. I think for me, especially dealing with, my two boys, I think resiliency is, is really, really top of mind for me. Getting them to understand that that there are so many different skill sets and things that you may want to do or accomplish, right? And you're not necessarily going to master all of them, right? But knowing that you gave 100% effort and that you put in all that you have, right? That's the capacity. That's only, you can do only so much as what you can do. And if you think you did your best, spot on. But let's learn from that, and then let's come, try something different the next time, right? And I think that's something very unique that sports kind of sort of provides. It gives you the, it's like real time. I don't know how to really kind of sort of explain it, but you're able to see change in real time sometimes. And if it's not right there in that moment, it could be the next practice, it could be the next game, it could be the third or fourth game sometime down the line. But I would also say leadership skills. It has definitely taught me how to kind of sort of stop being selfish and narcissistic. I would say it's more so like for me, and I'm sure for all of you guys, I work 9 to 5. I've got 2 boys. I'm worried about them doing the work, doing their homework. And then I'm like, man, do I have the energy and the time to give back to these other kids? And sometimes I, give myself a guilt trip, like this time that I could be spending with these other boys and girls, could I be giving back, to my kids as well? So I kind of sort of stopped that guilt trip in that regard. But I think another leadership skill that coaching has kind of sort of brought with me is, also being a little bit more punctual. Like in my life, I'm like, I'll get there when I get there. But knowing, I've got little people and I've got young kids waiting on me, I'm definitely a lot more, like punctual, and a lot more knowing that there are people who are relying on me to be consistent, as Perriyana basically said, to show up and to teach them. And they're here to listen to me. And the fact that they did show up, the fact that they did show up, whether it be for me or for the love of the game, they showed up,
Love it. That's all amazing. It's so great to hear you break down the benefits that women have and what they bring to the table when it comes to coaching, but everything you've learned along the way so far. Perriyana, my next question for you, I would really love to hear, in all your experience with girls in the game, what has been your proudest moment or favorite memory as a coach so far at Girls in the Game that's really stuck with you?
I have favorite moments. I guess I have a lot. I think I'm one of those people where it's hard for me to accept, a compliment or to hear something good about, myself or what I'm doing. It's just like I was just raised to be kind. So it's like anything other than that, something is wrong. But like when the teens like message you, or when they fill out the surveys and you get to read their perspective and read their experience, and it's just like this program basically has done so much for me. I was once this, now I'm this, or I'm starting to mentor, or I told others about this program and how to get involved. Then it's like, okay, maybe what I'm doing is having an impact, because they came back, because we also track attendance. So it's like, okay, they came back, or they came to majority of program, and then clearly they took something away, because I'm seeing everything we talked about on their survey, or they message me saying thank you, or they using me as a reference for college, or they're asking me for a letter of rec. So it's like, okay, maybe I did something that mattered, or maybe I did something right. So it's just those moments, like like I said, receiving good feedback, and then receiving those emails or messages. So it's like, thank you, coach. If not for you, then this, or I am, the person I am because of this program, or whatever. So I think that matters when I know that they have pulled something and learned something, whether it be for me, my coworkers, or the curriculum itself. So it's just those. It's just that moment, you know.
Definitely. Coach O, same question to you. What's your proudest moment or favorite memory as an Up2Us Sports coach so far?
Wow, that is a good question. And I was thinking about it while Perriyana was speaking. I have a few favorites. I have to say at least 3. So first, I have to go back to our MLK event. Peace Players always has an annual Martin Luther King Jr. big event, 2 days. We have a celebration, and then we have more of a day of service in the community. So that especially, it really resonated for me because I got to see kind of the Peace Players mission and the Up2Us Sports, mission of making that impact through sport. Just because, in Baltimore City, the east and west sides have historically been divided, and we hosted this event. The first day was over east, and we had kids from our school on the west side come over east just for basketball, for Peace Players. They didn't know who was going to be there from the other schools. They weren't familiar with the neighborhood or anything like that. But they came for the love of the game, for the love of us coaches. They came in, gave us hugs. I was super happy. That day was amazing. And then also the day of service on the west side. But also recently, actually last week, we got to do a clinic at a high school. And I was really, really excited for that because I participated in Peace Players as a high schooler. So I went in there full energy, and those kids, they were just as excited to see us. They were ready to play basketball. They were ready to learn and hear about things they weren't familiar with as far as our peace education, the 3 core values at Peace Players and things like that. But that was awesome. And then just like Perriyana said, those little moments where you get a girl makes her first basket, after trying for so long, or you have the boy who has been maybe confrontational, or you've had some behavioral issues, maybe he's fighting or something. You get that moment of like realization where it's like everything we've talked about in the program kind of kicks in. I made my kids, they always ask about this one game that we played one time. Now they love it, and they just always have to play that game. So I said, okay, y'all have to explain to me the lesson from today. Tell me how this game relates to the lesson from today. And at first they were quiet, but I said, if y'all want to play Zap Tag, figure it out. Y'all got to tell me, how does this game relate to, getting out of the box with someone, resolving that conflict? And they started working together, that culture of collaboration. They started figuring it out, talked about how, well, when you're in a conflict, you want to try to understand the other person. You want to apologize if you need to, or forgive if you need to. And they pulled it together. I said, okay, let's play Zap Tag. So it's just little rewarding things like that. But coaching is just such a gratifying experience. I really, encourage anybody who's in a position to do so to try it. Anyone that loves working with kids, that wants to become a better communicator and challenge yourself in that way, coaching is awesome, and I'm glad I get to do it every day.
Coach O, I want to mention something really quickly. It's so funny that you mentioned that. And through some of the trainings that I have been through, I've mentioned to some of the fellow coaches too, is that it is so funny. My oldest son mentioned, and I've, been, coaching here for years. He was like, Mom, he was like, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. He was like, but sometimes you're a better coach than you are a mom. And I was like, I don't know.
What's the right way to take it? Like, explain.
And I had to step back and was like, I think that's a backhanded comment, but I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take it.
Take it.
Pocket, and what I think he kind of sort of meant, as a mom, I'm very strict. I want things in place, organized. But as a coach, I've learned to kind of sort of let things go, be a little bit more forgiving, try again. I have a lot more patience. Yeah. And I think that I took it as a great comment, but what I've learned to do is bring some of those coaching aspects that I bring to on the field, bring it back home.
Yeah.
You know, have patience with my kids. Let things be a teachable moment, you know, especially when it comes to like, you know, asking them to do things that they may have never done before, but you just automatically think that they know how to do. I'm like, okay, let me show you, you show me, and you know, and then
Right.
you show me what you've learned or something like that. So
Yeah.
it's those skills that I've learned as, you know, through Up2Us and through some of those trainings that I've been able to implement back, you know, in my personal life.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And also kind of that idea of us being role models to our youth. You know, I sometimes I find myself checking myself and I'm like, wait a second, you know, that wasn't I teach my kids not to act like this. So let me go back and turn this situation around. Even I have a funny story. Just yesterday, I also work at the recreation center by my house, and I was over there. My coworker started talking about, oh, I'm better than her at basketball. Come on now, like you're a soccer player. Don't even try it. So I said, okay, let's go. So we go and we play 1-on-1, first to three. I won the first game. Y'all knew that. And then he goes running back. Okay, so we're playing. Now looking back, reflecting, I realized, and I told my kids this story today as well, because I just thought it was a good, you know, teachable moment. He was trying to get me upset. So he started talking and he was just going. And I'm like, okay, like that's enough. And I'm getting frustrated. And then at the end of the game, he wants to dap me up. And I'm like, no, leave me alone. But I realized, like, I sat in my car for a little bit. I went home and then I called him. I was like, I'm sorry. You know what? I teach my kids not to behave like that. We got to have that good attitude, sportsmanship. But also, I recognize at that moment, and Up2Us does a great job of teaching us about it. I was triggered. My brain got hijacked, and I was not in the mood for any dap, any high five, none of that. I was not trying to hear it. But those 18 minutes passed, and I said, okay, yeah, I gotta call him. Like, let me just apologize, and I'll tell my kids about it. But yeah, no, it's definitely coaching. It's like a mirror. You get to see yourself in the kids. The kids see themselves in you. It's awesome.
I love that. Coach O is just breaking down, for anyone who doesn't know, this kind of like biological effect that can happen when you're triggered, and often it takes 18 minutes after you're triggered to like calm down and like get reset and get your prefrontal cortex working like how it normally is. I loved hearing both of your stories kind of about these teachable moments, because coaching is a lot of teachable moments and picking up on these little things to be able to elevate the impact of whatever a lesson is. But that's one thing I'm always surprised by, is how much I'm taught by every single day whenever I'm interacting with youth, whenever I'm coaching. That's definitely one thing that always sticks with me. One last thing real quick before we close out, I wanted to ask all of you, what would you tell someone who is on the fence thinking about becoming an Up2Us sports coach, but isn't necessarily 100% sure that that's what they want to do? Perriyana, I'll start with you.
Y'all can hear me?
We're good.
Okay. First thing I'll say, because very direct opinion, why are you on the fence? That's first part. Because if you're on the fence now, you're gonna be on the fence later. And that's the thing with children. Like, the saying, real recognize real. Children know who's authentic and who's not. And if you're thinking about becoming a coach, you will have to think about, are you gonna be a 3-dimensional coach? Also, like, how are you gonna coach? And then, do you have the capabilities to be there and be fully there, present in the space? Also, do you like kids? Because in my experience, it's okay. It's okay if you're not a person that like kids. That's fine. But then why work with them? You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna feel some type of way. So that's the first thing. You got to figure out if you like children, if you like teenagers, or if you like both. Because that's real. Some people may like working with children and not teens, vice versa, or all three. That like, you got to figure out. And also, what's your craft and your specialty, and also what are some areas that you need to work in? Because the teens and children like to relate to people who are going through the things they're going through or who can help them through. So it's like, it's okay. And as a like Sheena said, as an adult, like, hey, I might have my specialty, and then letting the kids know, like, you know what, being transparent, like, you know, I have some things I need to grow in, because the kids and teens be so floored when they realize like you still going through some of the things that they are going through, or you still getting your life together, or you still processing. Because when I work with children, I get like, some kids thought I was like 16. I'm like, no, I wish, but that means I'm gonna age gracefully, because black don't crack. I tell kids, I'm like, no, I'm 25. Oh, you old. Okay, first of all, that's not what you're gonna do. But to sum it up, you just figure out, are you going to lead by example? Are you going to be the coach they need? And how can you adequately serve? Because that's what we need. We need people that's going to fulfill their duties and go beyond the immediate. Like, it's fine doing the bare minimum, but we need to go beyond the bare minimum, because we see people doing the bare minimum, and that's why we at where we at now in society with everything. We don't need no more bare minimum people. We need people who are gonna push. And as a coach, you're gonna have to push. The teens and kids gonna push back. That's fine. Shake it off. You're gonna get used to it. Like, we know kids are impulsive. So you can't be afraid to push the boundaries too and expand, because you're working on them to be helping them become the best person. So as a coach and as a person who wants to coach, thinking about how can you be that example for them, and how can you adequately serve them.
Love it. Love all of what you just said, Perriyana. Coach Onyeka, same question. What would you tell someone who's on the fence?
Yes, ma'am. I think that was a great point about asking them first why they are on the fence, because it is important, to do that check and see, what do you have for this and what do you have against it? Why are you, leaning one way or another? For me, I would tell a person who is on the fence why I decided to become an Up2Us Sports coach, and then I would let them go from there. So for me, I was relatively new to coaching when I decided to make that transition into the Up2Us coaching role. I started at PeacePlayers Baltimore in October, and then my service term started in at the end of January. So I'd been coaching for a couple of months. Was still new to it, but I just felt like doing that year of service and having those 900 hours to acquire would give me an opportunity to kind of find my way in coaching, to try different things, to take on new assignments, ask for additional responsibility from my director at PeacePlayers Baltimore, and just see what I'm interested in. We also have this amazing career readiness training that Up2Us provides, and I've noticed that I'm kind of in that explore phase. I'm trying to see what's next for me. I think this is the perfect time to take a year, get these hours, and do different things within the organization and see where it leads me, where I want it to lead me. So far I have discovered that I do have a passion for working with kids. I already knew that because I did summer camps, and most of my jobs have been with kids, with Montgomery County Recreation and things like that. But I've also continued to find my voice as a coach, and I have learned that there are careers out there for women in sports-based youth development, and just to keep pushing and keep working and keep building those connections, network. It's an opportunity. I mean, Up2Us Sports really gives us a platform, an avenue to change the game, and that's what we want to do. So
Love that. That's the name
that's
of the
my
initiative.
pitch.
We're changing the game. I love
Yes.
it, Onyeka.
Thank you.
Sheena, round us out. What would you tell someone on the fence?
I would tell someone on the fence, if you're on the fence, I would say do it. I love a challenge. My thing is try it out for a term. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you guys a funny story, and I'm gonna pivot back into why do you actually do it. I not proud of this moment, but it was during a basketball tournament for one of my sons, and for the life of me, this ref was not calling the right plays. And I was in his ear the entire time. Like, he would go up the court and I would find another seat up the court, and then I'd be walking all the way back, and it was poor, it was just not a good side of me that you saw. So after the game, the ref came up and talked to me, and I was like, what? Why is he talking? I'm like, why is he talking to me? He was like, hey, Mom. He was like, I just want to pull you to the side and, kind of sort of apologize. And I was like, why is this ref apologizing to me? Right. And he was, first thing he said, he was like, I just want to apologize. There's very few of us out here. Then he said, there's supposed to be 2 refs for this game, but unfortunately, I was the only one that showed up. And then he said, he's like, it sounds like you know what you're talking about. He was like, unfortunately, I'm the only eyes on here and I can't see everything. And so he was like, I'd like to challenge you, if you're up for it, to take a ref class. And I was like, he could have gone all the way left. Right? He could have berated me for being in his face, for being a loudmouth, for being all these things. But yet this man specifically said, he was like, we need more of you out here. I think you know what you're talking about. He was like, why don't you try taking a ref course? Took the course because I love a challenge. Took the course, and literally, I think it was like my second or third game. It was I met my match at one of these games. And she gave me the same business. And I was like, I had a newfound, respect for reffing games, right? My thing is that being on the sidelines is so different from actually being in it, whether it is being a coach or being a referee or being, a park director or whatever the case may be. And sometimes it's so much easier from the outside looking in, right? Unless you were particularly, in that position, I want to encourage more women, more Black women, to get involved. It gives you a personal connection to a lot of kids who may not think that coaching as a woman is possible. I also think that you get to see the changes and the actual skill development of these kids firsthand. And you may not see it in your practices, you may not see it in the first game, but I also remember that aha moment. It was one of the games I was with my son's coach pitch game. And literally it was the second to the last game of the season. And literally it was like such an awesome feeling to know that all the kids on the field were in unison, they were in sync, they were listening, all those skills that we put together during practice, it clicked. And you could see it on the field when they got to the bench, how they handled themselves on and off the field. And I was like, I've been waiting for this my whole life. But it's very, very rewarding. So I would tell someone who's on the fence, just do it. Just try it out for one time. You may or you may not like it, but at least, you put yourselves in someone else's shoes. And we just need more women coaches out there.
I agree. There's no harm in just trying it if you're on the fence. Thank you for everything you just shared about your own experience. Thank all 3 of you for all of your awesome knowledge and wisdom and experiences shared today. I feel really honored to be able to moderate this conversation and just be able to listen and learn from all of you. So thank you all so much. And I'm excited for, in a couple minutes here, we're going to get to open up some conversations with our attendees today. But for right now, I am going to shift back to our slide deck. 1 second. I'll go back to our sharing mode. And I'm just going to walk through quickly the process and the logistics of being an Up2Us Sports Coach. So the key commitments of being an Up2Us Sports Coach, it's typically about 10 to 12 months of service. This does vary based on your host site. Some organizations that we partner with, they might have like really intense hours for just like a summer, just like 4 months, or it might be maybe less weekly time commitment over an entire year. So it definitely does vary, but that's the most typical, is 10 to 12 months of service. You have a commitment to fulfill all of your direct service hours. Fulfilling all your service hours ensures that you can receive different benefits from AmeriCorps, because we are an AmeriCorps service program. Other commitments are attending that coach training that we talked about earlier in this conversation. You learn a lot about sports-based youth development, trauma-sensitive coaching, creating a positive team culture, kind of that biological processes that happen, and when you're triggered, and how to deflate them and work through them. A lot of really, really helpful skills that you can use. Honestly, I use them both in and out of coaching, so I love our training. Other things are attending days of service or other mandatory events. I know Coach O mentioned like MLK days of service. These things vary based on region and city, but most cities will have at least a couple times a year different events to go out in the community outside of just your coaching commitments, and do something positive in the community. And then the last thing is data collection and submission. Things that you're collecting as a coach are kind of like the numbers of your impact. So like how many youth you serve, how they improve on physical skills, how their different social and emotional learning skills are developing. So different qualitative and quantitative type of things. So just to be able to track, so we can have that impact written down on paper. Clicking through, these are our different benefits of being an Up2Us Sports Coach. So during your service, you get a living stipend. I believe that's paid bi-weekly. And that varies based on your hourly commit or your weekly time commitment as a coach. But it is bi-weekly and consistent across your service. Next is your education award. So the AmeriCorps Siegel Education Award can be used to pay tuition. It can be used to pay off any student loans or any other kind of expenses associated with your education. You can also save it for, I think it's up to 7 years. Don't quote me on that number, but a considerable amount of years if you're thinking of going back to school or to grad school in the future. And that number also varies by your hourly or your weekly hour commitment as a coach. Next is loan forbearance eligibility. So just giving you a little bit more flexibility in repaying your loans if you need it. And the last one is ongoing professional development in coach training, which I know we also mentioned in this panel conversation. Is we have a whole career readiness department here at Up2Us Sports that's sole existence within Up2Us is to help our coaches be propelled to the next steps in the career, whether it's getting a full-time job, whether it's in resume or cover letter writing, negotiating, job searching, networking, anything in that realm. And then beyond your service term, when you become an alumni, you'll become an expert in youth coaching, and that's going to stay with you for quite a while. You will stand out in job and school applications. One of the cool things about being an Up2Us Sports Coach is you really fulfill 3 roles. At the highest level, I would say you're an AmeriCorps service member, so you fulfill an AmeriCorps service member role. Next, you're an Up2Us Sports Coach, so you're delivering our training as an Up2Us Sports Coach, getting to interact with us at the Up2Us level, and then you are a coach at your host site. So, for example, like Coach Onyeka is a PeacePlayers Baltimore coach. So that's kind of your core identity where you're putting in the most work. So being able to leverage all different 3 of these roles is really cool and what helps you stand out in those applications. Next is access to alumni events. We try to put on, a lot of them are from our career readiness department, to try to keep supporting our alumni in any way that we can, as well as an expanded professional network. I think on like one of the first slides, it said we have upwards of 3,400 alumni. So being able to be connected with them, other sports-based youth development organizations, other organizations that we're connected with, that's a really cool kind of resource that's available to you in different ways after you're done serving as a coach. Next is just thinking about your impact. You'll make sports a more comfortable environment for girls, empower youth to reach their full potential. You'll help organizations in your community serve more youth. I know especially now a lot of organizations are looking for more people to build capacity and fill these roles that are open, that a lot were affected by the pandemic and left some of those gaps in existence. So you really are serving your community organizations. Next, you'll inspire the next generation of leaders, and you'll create social change in your community through the power of sports, which is everything we believe in through sports-based youth development. These words on the outside, these are our key social and emotional learning skills that are developed through our coaching program. So things like self-management, relationship skills, responsible decision-making, self-awareness, and social awareness are the key types of impacts and metrics that we make an impact on in youth. So how do you apply? How do you get started? Our application process can just be started with filling out a simple interest form. So if you want to take a second and scan the QR code, you can go right ahead, or you can go to this bit.ly link. I'll walk you through how to do this now. So let me take us away. Am I still sharing the apply to be a coach page? Oh, here we go. I clicked the right button. There we go. I think we're on the right page now. So it'll bring you to your Google site if you go to that QR code. And it'll bring us to our apply to be a coach page. So the first thing you'll see are 3 different boxes you can click. They lead to different PDFs about why maybe to join Up2Us Sports. What is Up2Us Sports all about? What's AmeriCorps all about? So you can click through these. You're just reading resources. And if you scroll down, you'll find different links for each of our regions. So for example, I'm up in the Northeast, so maybe I would click this Northeast button, and it would take me to our Northeast page. If I scroll down to the bottom of the page, that's where I'll start. I can see all of the available opportunities that are available right now. So I can click through, for example, see this YES opportunity in Boston. Looks awesome, looks super cool, looks doable. Then I'm gonna just scroll right up. I'll fill out this simple Google form just with my name and my email basically, as well as I could say like, yes, I'm interested in, yes. And I can send that right along. Once that gets sent, then our program director for the Northeast, Kevin in this case, would reach out to me and help solidify those next steps. I will say that there are a lot of opportunities coming up within the next couple of months that are going to get added to the Google sites. So if you don't see any opportunities that really fit with you right now, check back in a couple of months because this is constantly updated. And August is one of our key times where a lot of these opportunities get added. So I will just mention that. All right, let me switch back. All right, I'm going to stop sharing for now. Fantastic. So that's the process of getting that application started. If anyone has any questions at any time, you can feel free to plop them in the chat. I'm also just going to put in here really quick my email. Just if you have any questions that pop up with anything related to She Changes the Game or coaching with us, I'd be happy to answer those questions or pass them along to the most appropriate person. Great. That kind of closes out our presentation portion of this event. I now want to invite all of our attendees to join our table sessions. So one really cool thing about Air Meet, which you might have seen when you first joined, is there's different tables. I think because there's so few of us here today, we're able to have like a really cool conversation, all of us together. It might make the most sense if we all just kind of join the same table. So I'm going to end this session in a second, and then I would love to invite all of you to hang around for as long as you'd like. And let's all join the table that says help desk, just to be the easiest. So I'll put that in the chat as well, or maybe Jacqueline, you can put it in there. But let's all just join the one that says help desk. If you have any questions, please bring them for our awesome panelists. And I'll see you in there in a second. So let's give it a try. If you have any questions at any time, put them in the chat and we'll help you the best we can. All right, I'll see you in there. Thanks again, everybody, so much. This is so fun.